Okay, so I am super excited to be going live with Amy today. And today we're going to be talking about sobriety and weight loss. And Amy's going to share a little bit about her story, just when it comes to alcohol and how she's been able to mindfully drink and just kind of share more about that and just what she does as a wellness coach too. And so I'll just go ahead and let Amy introduce yourself and then we'll just kind of pick up from there. Sound good?
Sure, that's great.
Okay.
I figure I give
Awesome.
like maybe a little backstory, I guess, on myself and
Yeah.
kind of go from there. Okay.
Share all you
I was
would
trying to think how to do like a really quick snapshot so people can just kind of get to know me pretty quickly. But I would say like growing up healthy, I was blessed with a very healthy family. My parents are still married. They're retired in Arizona now. I've got a brother. And I think my first exposure, since we're kind of talking about health and wellness and sobriety, and I'm going to bring it full circle, but my first exposure to body image issues was growing up with really, really bad cystic acne. So acne kind of plagued my life from age 12 all the way to 19 and was kind of my identity for that period of time growing up, which was not very fun. And in my 20s, I got braces, I took Accutane, I kind of leaned out a little bit and just naturally got married young and quickly to somebody I had met on social media. That's when social media was kicking off, y'all. It was like MySpace back in the day, if people
I
even
used to love
remember
MySpace.
that. I miss MySpace. I think that I liked that platform. So that was kind of, my entry level into being a military wife. My brother had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. I came from a military family. So it was kind of this really unhealthy relationship for 7 years, but I didn't really have any alcohol excessiveness in that time frame, kind of the normal 20-year-old stuff when you turned 21. Casual stuff, but nothing crazy. And I started calorie counting and doing Jillian Michaels DVDs in my 20s. And that's kind of my first time where I leaned out and as a 5'9" gal got down to like 138 pounds. But I didn't really know like nutrition, fitness, and all of that stuff during that time frame. I think we got way more exposure now, way more knowledge now, maybe too much knowledge sometimes.
Yeah.
So when I obviously stopped doing that, the weight came back on. And, I kind of managed some things. Got a divorce and moved back home in Oregon. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. And so in my 30s, it was kind of like my reset of life, right? Like I was starting over. I met my husband now, David. And when we started dating, for whatever reason, we just kind of like gave up all healthy eating and any kind of activity levels. It was a really dark winter that year. We unfortunately had a cancer diagnosis with his mom and was dealing with some of that stressor, as well as moving a couple of times, and just kind of like went to food and booze dominantly for kind of our coping mechanisms, right? So on our wedding day, like we both had gained like 40 plus pounds in that period of time. We don't even have wedding pictures up to this day because we just really hated how we looked because we had gained so much weight for ourselves. And basically what kind of started my health journey was that fascination and interest in health and fitness and starting to listen to podcasts and learning about it. Experimenting. I've literally done every single diet that's been out there. The only thing I haven't done, and I will never do, is a vegan diet or like a carnivore line.
Oh, yeah.
Like the extremes of one another. But truthfully, I literally have tried everything that's out there. And what motivated me to become a health coach was the fact that I knew that if I was holding people accountable for their health and wellness goals, it was another way for me to hold myself accountable. So my husband became a personal trainer. I did several certifications to become a certified health coach. And then in 2021, we merged together and started our business, Work in Progress Texas, and have been navigating the life of like an entrepreneur while still working full-time jobs and trying to serve people. And our mission has kind of shifted to couples just because we knew that doing it together was what got us the most success. So of course we still help people that are single. We're never going to single anybody out, but to bring it full circle back to the alcohol part of it, anytime that I derailed from my health and fitness journey, it was mostly because of booze. Booze was the culprit. It was letting the stressors of life make that, turning to that as kind of a relief or an escape mechanism or to chase the buzz or whatever. And we find that a lot of our clients struggle with alcohol as well, as far as trying to find that healthy balance. And so it's certainly one of those things that is part of a conversation, that we have regularly with people when they're seeking us. Sometimes it's, carbs and sugar and desserts and just overeating. But a lot of the times trying to find the balance of booze is really challenging for a lot of people. So, all that to say, we're super excited to serve people and start learning how to find more people who want to work with us. We're here in San Antonio, and that was cool how you and I made that connection of location, and doing really well. And our own journey, we finally have kind of cracked the code of like, how do we customize a plan for people? How do we customize a plan for ourselves so that you never have to diet again? And then trying to find that happy balance when it comes to alcohol. There's been some things that have helped kind of make that, which I'm sure we'll get into as far as how to find that balance. But I think it's kind of a good snapshot overview of hopefully people getting a little, insight into my life and who I am and where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And I know I can relate to your story too. And I feel like I kind of went through the same thing, like when it came to like body image and things like that. But for me, it was like flip-flopped. Like I went through the alcohol piece, and then after that, I got really obsessive over my body. Like it was just crazy. But of course, like your brain, it goes like from one thing to another, one extreme to another, right? And so I would love to hear, I know you kind of shared a little bit, just kind of what your habits kind of looked like around alcohol. Was it like the weekend binge, or was it just kind of like here and there? What did that look like where you were just like, okay, well, this kind of needs to stop? And I know you mentioned the weight gain and all that good stuff, like when it comes to like alcohol specifically.
Yeah, I think it was identifying the fact that I was choosing it to escape and the buzz aspect. Like to me, I wasn't drinking alcohol for flavor and enjoyment or the artistic approach of it. Like there's definitely some alcohol beverages that I enjoy. Like I like the bubbles and I like the espresso martinis or something with a little bit more sweet, or maybe too many calories. Like if we're talking about the types of booze that taste the best, right? And have the best results or whatever. But I think what the major thing was being really susceptible to headaches and hangovers. And as I got older, that obviously just has gotten worse. Like it's one of those things where when you abstain from alcohol and then you do bring that back into your life, it's like you're going to feel really super crummy. So I think it was taking that moment to identify, like, do I want to feel crummy? Like, do I want to lose a day to recover from something like this? Like if I'm trying to run a business, do a full-time job, we're building a house on property, like doing all of this stuff and being productive, like alcohol was always interfering with productivity and feeling accomplished. And I think I had to make that realization bigger than the temporary enjoyment of some booze and being buzzed. And because for me, I'm an introvert too. So it is a social lubricant for me. It's one of those, it's like, you kind of open up a little bit for situations and you're like, oh, well, I don't really want to be here right now. Booze kind of helps with that. So having to say, like, is it worth being uncomfortable or a little tired going into a social situation where you actually get some energy eventually? Like you eventually start to perk up a little bit when you're around people, even us introverts do. Or do you want some longer term pain to have some booze to survive the social situation and then wake up crappy the next day, as opposed to like pushing yourself to socialize and be like quote unquote normal, I guess, and then have the next morning and you feel fine and you have, cool. I felt it was a little hard to get started or to drive into that social situation, but once I got there, it wasn't so bad, right? Like having that conversation in your head.
So really just kind of being honest with yourself and really asking yourself, like, what do I really value? And like kind of aligning like those core values with your action steps, right? And just kind of, I feel like honesty is a big thing, because I feel like whether you're an everyday drinker or you're somebody that, was drinking like you were drinking or like I was drinking, it's like we have that denial and it's like, no, it's fine. I'll just like, we try to moderate, we try to do all these things. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, is it adding to my life or is it taking away? And just being honest with yourself and moving forward from that. So I love that. I know you had mentioned like social settings. So I know social settings are always a big thing for people, and where they get just social anxiety, and especially if they're introverts like you and I mean, that's like, I even feel like nowadays still, I'm just like, I still get a little shy, and I'm just like, I really have to push myself outside my comfort zone. So I would love to kind of just hear how you've handled social settings and being booze free, especially like when you were kind of like at the beginning of your journey, trying to like figure out, whether alcohol was going to fit in your life, or you just want to mindfully drink, or what that really looked like for you.
Yeah, I think I can be honest and say that alcohol is not completely gone from our lives. We do partake in it. And what I've started to save it for are things that I just feel like, first off just kind of knowing that maybe I've got a little cushion just in case it backfires a little bit health-wise, because sometimes it's unpredictable. Sometimes you can have a small amount and it backfires, or a large amount. It's really unpredictable, which is kind of the frustrating part of it. But I think that's what shows that the fact that it is a toxin, it is negative in your body. And so for me, I think I have to, in social situations, I think I still have that extrovert that I can pull out. And it's a matter of just talking myself into going to the situation. And I think it was funny, on my stories today, I was talking about like how we have to talk ourselves into things. We can talk ourselves out of things. So why is it any different? Why is it any different to try to talk yourself into something, right? It's kind of like, it's the same psychology. If you're going to talk yourself out of it, your brain's not going to want to do it. If you talk yourself into it, your brain's going to want to do it. Another blessing, honestly, and this sounds kind of terrible, but I think changing our social circle a little bit too was necessary. And I don't mean to say that my friends who still partake regularly, that's any judgment towards them. I would hate anyone to see this and think that, but I think the fact that we have a friendship circle that really don't drink now was helpful in that process, honestly, because there's no pressure, there's no peer pressure, because that's the worst part, I think, is when you hang out in a friendship circle and there's peer pressure to partake if you don't feel like partaking. And I was never one of those people who had alcohol and ever pushed it on people. I never did that. I never understood that. So for me, I'm thankful for a different friendship circle in that everyday hangout stuff. But in the instances when I do hang out with people that drink, like if I'm not up to it or don't feel like it, it's good when they just kind of respect it and don't push the issue. And if they do push the issue, then I need to reevaluate that relationship, But that's kind of dominantly, I think, for me. I mean, if you think about health, I'll even post under, share the article that I found too, that was health and wellness, there's short-term effects, it changes your mood, it lowers your inhibitions, there's impulsive behavior, there's potential headaches, diarrhea, like other short-term issues that can happen with, your gut and your overall health. And then there's long-term effects where they can change appetite, your weight, problems with memory, difficulty focusing on tasks, insomnia, anxiety. Like there's so many other things that play against you when it comes to alcohol. So I think when you start to identify health-wise how and learn about it a little bit and kind of maybe listen to a podcast on it or do some research, I think that helps you figure out like, okay, how much do I want this in my life? Because ultimately it is a poison. There is nothing nutritionally beneficial about alcohol at all. So then you kind of, especially if you have health and fitness goals, one of those things that's going to benefit you is abstaining from alcohol. And whether that's like a 30-day detox to kick it off and get started and creating a little space in between your food choices, and just knowing too that when you are in a fat loss phase, for example, those calories in alcohol add up really, really quickly. So on the health spectrum world, it's kind of like, if we're thinking about caloric consumption, I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice other calories that will nourish your body in order to have something that doesn't nourish your body. Now, can we figure it in? Can we work it into your plan? Sure, we can. But if you're looking for a period of time for optimal results, especially like about 12 weeks or so, which is kind of an average calorie deficit time frame, it's best to consider either reducing it maybe 2 drinks max a week or not at all if you can be strong, So
definitely. No, I love that you talked about that, because I know for myself, and I know we kind of talked about this behind the scenes, like when I was binge drinking, I mean, I was horrible. Like I was just like probably 10 drinks every time I would go out, if not more. Right. And so, but I was Monday through Friday, I was on my meal prep. I was on my workouts. Once Friday hit, I was like, let's party. And so my body was still seeing changes, but it's like, I had to work so much harder. And I even got in the mindset, which is such an unhealthy mindset, where it was just like, okay, well, I'm actually not going to eat that much at dinner because I want to go out and drink. And so I kind of like, I would love to hear like your thoughts on that, because I'm sure other people kind of have that mindset too. And it's like, okay, well, we can fit it in, but let's not do it. Let's not compromise like your health. Like you need to eat, you need to have energy, and then at the end of the day too, like alcohol just brings inflammation. It's going to, hinder your results and so forth. And so that just kind of like popped in my head because I know that's how I used to think. So what are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, alcohol would like probably slow fat loss by at least 60%. So it's going to take longer
Mhm.
naturally. If you incorporate alcohol
Yeah.
into your life, it's going to take longer. On the weekends, I totally hear you there. Like you be quote unquote behave throughout the week and then you kind of let loose on the weekends and those
Mhm.
calories add up. So you can absolutely lose your calorie deficit progress in that week on the weekend because the weekend is 30% of your week. So
Yeah.
if you're increasing calories and what happens when you drink is like you get hungry or you might snack some more. Like there's people that can overeat
Mhm.
because all of your inhibitions are kind of loose right now and you need something to soak up the alcohol. And I can relate to you maybe a little bit on the binge drinking more so that once I start, it was hard to stop. It was hard to say,
Right.
okay, I'm done, I'm good.
Yeah.
Once I have two, three, well, one more. And then I'm talking
Yeah.
like Long Island's here and it's kind of like, whoa, like
Yep. All of a
they're
sudden just
going.
hits you.
Exactly. So if you take a weekend and you let's say you eat your 1,500 calories every single day, Monday through Friday or whatever, but then we know Friday night is usually part of the weekend too. So technically it's Monday through Thursday. And then you
Right.
have like 3 or 4 drinks that are at least 200 to 500 calories a piece, depending on what you're ordering. You
Mhm.
will easily lose your calorie deficit in the weekend because we
Yeah.
actually look at weekly averages, not daily averages. So you
Mhm.
might be behaving on that daily or trying to save up a little bit of calories for the weekend, which that is a technique that does exist. You
Mhm.
can adjust calories for the weekend and
Right.
adjust them for the week because we look at weekly averages, but
Mhm.
super, super easy to overdo it with booze and make the kilo
Yeah.
consumption go up. That's just, you would just lose your deficit. If you were in a
Yeah.
maintenance phase or a building phase, the challenge would be to build muscle because the alcohol still
Mhm.
stays in your system for a little bit too. It's not like it's
Right.
completely out by that Monday,
Mhm.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that percentage is really high too. Like I wrote down right here 60%. Like I knew it was high, but I didn't realize it was that high. And so
Mhm.
I'm sure you then obviously you see a huge difference from those clients that keep alcohol in their lives, during their prep or during their, I guess 12 weeks, like you said, on their beginning
Mhm.
stages of trying to lose weight, opposed to the people that just cut it out completely. I feel
Mhm.
like that would almost be like night and day a little bit.
It is because if you think about it too, alcohol is such an energy zap. Like it's gonna zap your energy. And so if you're trying to keep an active lifestyle, get your workouts in, get your, how many steps a day you're kind of aiming for, or you're trying to meal prep or grocery shop. I mean, all of those things can be impacted by alcohol consumption because
Yeah.
your energy levels, your drive. Like there were so many Saturdays that I had wasted because I just felt so crummy the next day. And so my motivation to do anything, even though motivation doesn't exist, you have to create it, but your
Right.
discipline just kind of dies off when you don't feel optimal.
Mhm.
If
Yeah.
if you're having a little headache or overdo it. And it's one of those things too where it's so easy to do. And I still have my own slip ups. I'm certainly not perfect.
Yeah.
I think I'm still finding that balance sometimes, but we just drink so much less. And
Yeah.
last year it really I let stress get to me and I chose it. And I lost a lot of progress physically on my body
Mhm.
composition goals and had to play some catch up. And so there's a point where you just have to draw a line in the sand and be like, no more.
Yeah.
I'm not letting this rule my life. And I'll figure out if I don't want to abstain from it completely, what what does that look like for me? And I think you have to
Mhm.
write that down, and own what that looks for you. And I
Yeah.
think most of the time what it is for us is we find alternatives. We have alcohol-free options. We have adaptogen
Mhm.
drinks. We order
Yeah.
something and just have it, maybe a fizzy drink. Maybe I do have a soda instead because I'd rather have a soda with maybe some aspartame in it than having alcohol. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, is aspartame fantastic for you? No, but is it a little
Yeah.
better than having a hangover the next day? Yes. you know?
Yeah. No, definitely. And
Yeah.
so I know you kind of broke it down as far as like the mindset and things like that, but if you could just put like maybe, I don't know, 3 first steps for people if they are trying to hit a health and wellness goal, but they want to keep alcohol in their lives, like, because obviously that's something that you've done, right? So what would be the first few things that you would tell them to focus on, and how are you able to do that yourself?
Yeah. So definitely when it comes to, if we're talking about fat loss in general, I mean,
Mhm.
how many calories you're consuming matters. Like if you're eating too many calories, you're going to gain weight. If you're eating too little calories, you're going to lose weight potentially. Just kind of depends on where your metabolism is. So at the first thing, we always have to track what we're doing, track what we're consuming, make sure we get an understanding of like, what does a normal day look like for you? And I wouldn't change anything necessarily. I would just track and see how many calories are you consuming on a regular basis if you aren't in some kind of nutrition plan or working with a coach right now. So you can use MyFitnessPal, you could journal it just to kind of get an idea of like, what is that caloric consumption look like, and actually start tracking the alcohol consumption to see how much does that tally up. I mean, yeah, if you're drinking like, Miller Lite at 90 calories and 2.5 carbs or whatever like that, maybe you can fit in 3 of those and it's no big deal. But truly see like, how many are you truly pouring a 5-ounce glass of wine, or are you filling it to the half point? So the caloric consumption would be number 1. Number 2, I would say, is if you're trying to keep it in your life, I still feel like a 30-day detox is smart. Because if you feel like, if I'm coaching somebody, for example, and we keep coming across the alcohol conversation, that might be a point where we're like, maybe we need to just take a 30-day break and reassess and see how you feel. Because if it's something that you're having on a regular basis, like throughout the week, or you're saving it for the weekends, that little break can reveal a lot. And you can actually have some really small wins that are actually, I would say, big wins. You have some big non-scale victories by just detoxing for about 30 days. And then I think really the last thing I would evaluate is really a matter of like, what are your long-term goals? I think there's a point where you have to kind of, and this is something that people do, that we encourage people to do, like in many aspects of their life, like when they're saying, I don't have enough time for A, B, or C, right? Well, we need to look at your schedule and really identify, where is that time going? Where are you spending your time? So I think you need to sit down and identify too, like what's my relationship with alcohol? And maybe that's something that you write out and have to identify. Is there past trauma? Is there damage? Is there something you're avoiding in your life? Is there, what are you experiencing that's having you turn to that? And I know that that's out of my scope of practice. Like, obviously this is talking about counseling or a sobriety coach or something like that, because I obviously am going to stay within my scope of practice, but it's not any different than reflecting on people who have food addiction issues, or they've got challenges with their schedule. Writing things down and getting an idea of what my relationship is, I think matters the most. If I was just to kind of think of the 3 things that come to mind right away, because I think realistically, yes, you can keep alcohol in your life on a caloric consumption, on a health consumption, but you got to track it. You got to take a break from it for a little bit to see what happens. And I think you got to identify your relationship with it. And if it's a deeper rooted issue that needs to be examined or needs more professional support.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like too, I mean, I know for myself, it was definitely like you said, like an energy sucker, like having to try to like think about, okay, well, what are the calories I need to get to, or where am I at? And I have to track this. And like, you know what I mean? Like it's already, I feel like you're already thinking about so many things and having to also think about alcohol. And then when you're going out, you're thinking, okay, well, I can only have 1, 2, or 3. I feel like that can even give people more anxiety too, sometimes depending on where you're at in your relationship with alcohol too.
Totally.
But I love that you touched on that, because I think like just having people reflect, I think a lot of people will realize how much energy they're actually spending on trying to keep alcohol in their lives, opposed to actually working on, the meal prepping and the mindfulness piece and just actually getting their workouts in. So I love that you share that. And I love that you have in, your protocol per se to take a 30-day detox if that is something that is becoming a problem. And honestly, I feel like I haven't really seen that. I mean, I don't talk to a lot of wellness coaches now, but I used to be a wellness coach, and I feel like that was just not a big piece of it, which I love that you do, because again, that opens the door for people to kind of reflect and see what's really holding them back. And so they can actually get to their goals with fitness, but also it kind of unveils like another layer. So if they need to hire a sober coach, they need to get counseling or whatever that may be, they can use that as a caveat with, working with you as well.
Yeah. And the bonus tip that I would add to that is, we prioritize protein, we figure out our carbs and fats, and they kind of fall wherever. So if we're talking about macro split too, if I was to have somebody who's like, hey, I'm going to go to a birthday party, or I'm going to go to an event or a dinner, like how do I incorporate, how do I fit this in? And I'd be like, okay, well, during the day, we're going to prioritize protein because I want to make sure you're still hitting your protein goals. We're going to save some carbs and fats for your beverage of choice, whatever that beverage of choice is. And we're going to fit it in. So that means that you're going to sacrifice some other nutrients or some other carb or fun fat sources. Maybe you're going to compromise a dessert because you're going to go ahead and have that beverage. So I think people will take that opportunity to weigh what's worth it to them. And I think that's when you're in a fat loss journey, especially, you have to make those decisions. And that's where support comes in. And that's where we try to help people navigate, give them a clear roadmap on how to still go enjoy life and have fun. And if alcohol is still a healthy thing, it's not a barrier for them or a really negative for them, how we can calorically incorporate that in there.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I'm just like, yes, like y'all need to work with her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. No, I mean, honestly, I just feel like the way your protocol is and how you approach things is a lot different than what I've seen. And maybe again, like maybe it's just been a while since I've really like sat with the wellness coach and like interviewed and had that conversation. But
well, I appreciate that. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Nice to hear that.
Yeah, and I just appreciate that as a sober coach too, because I feel like a lot of the times it's just very much marketed as like, okay, well, let's try to fit alcohol in. And, which again, like that's fine because obviously sobriety is not for everybody. So I think having that middle ground is definitely helpful. But I think like, again, just kind of showing both sides of it. Like, yes, if this is what you want, like, we can fit it in, but let's also look at how this is going to affect the results that you're trying to get. So kind of just really looking at both of those sides instead of being like, oh yeah, like you can drink and this and that. And I feel like that's like a big like marketing thing that I see a lot. And I feel like now it's maybe not so much because like a lot of people are starting to be more sober curious and things like that. But I just appreciate that because obviously sobriety is like, I'm a sobriety advocate. So like just knowing that that's, happening like that's a part of your protocol. Like I love that. So
yeah. And it's just proof that it's possible. And I think, the longest I went without alcohol, I think I made it like 75-ish days or something. And I definitely learned a lot with that. And because I did that, like it's been easier for me to abstain from it on a regular basis too. So just for any encouragement to your community and people out there who are sober curious, like it's possible. You have to be disciplined. There are substitutes. There is literally a movement happening of sober, and you're seeing more health coaches and people talk about alcohol and abstaining from it to feel their best and be accomplished and get rid of toxic stuff in their life. Like, I feel like that also leads to other things that maybe are some issues or barriers. Cause I think alcohol sometimes is a part of it. It's not always the only thing,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think just us having this conversation too shows that you don't have to be an alcoholic in order to stop drinking or take a break. Like it can just be for something simple as wanting to hit a fitness goal and just wanting to better your life. So I feel like that's a good thing to point out too, because I think there's a stigma around that where it's like, oh yeah, you have to hit your rock bottom in order to stop drinking. And it's like, no, like you can just want to be healthier and just take a break or totally, put it out of your diet. And that's okay. Cause just like you mentioned, like, it's like alcohol, it is a toxin, right? It's like, we don't want, like when we think of like donuts and like processed sugar, like we don't want to have a lot of that in our diet. So like just kind of looking at that through that lens too, when it comes to alcohol and just being like, yeah, it's just not, it's not helping my fitness goals or, where I want to be. So
exactly. And I think honestly, I feel like my walk with God and all of that stuff too improves when something like that. And I know that's part of your community too. And that's the fact. I mean, we are believers and we love the Lord, and we also know that our body is a temple, and I'd rather be ready for him coming back than be drunken and like not, or not contributing to society or not being my full potential, so that's part of it too. So
absolutely. Yeah. And do you mind kind of sharing a little bit more about that and how that's improved your walk with God, like the difference that maybe you noticed?
Because I think when I bring in alcohol into my life, that's where depression, self-hatred, and other things can come in. And that's truly the enemy trying to bring you down. So I think, the substance can be utilized that way, because I think my insecurities pop up. If I get a breakout, if I'm not as lean as I want, like when I'm drunk, there are aspects of some looseness that happens where maybe there's a little confidence that comes out. I mean, we can't deny that sometimes as a social lubricant, you kind of feel a little little freer, but then there's also moments where you sit there, especially when I would drink alone. Like when I would drink alone, when David wasn't here, that's where that depression and those kind of demons would would come. So maybe in a social situation, it wasn't like that, but by myself, it was. So. Oh no, are you frozen? Talking about spiritual stuff, and the devil just stopped the recording or stopped the video. Oh, there you are. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh
You
no.
can't hear me?
Oh, there you are. There you are. I was
Okay.
like, okay, here I just talked about like Jesus stuff. And like, of course,
I
technology
know.
issues. That is the devil.
Okay, so I don't even know where it cut off, but would you mind repeating a little bit of it?
Sure. Yes,
Yeah.
I basically, I appreciate that. I basically
Yeah.
said that, to me, when I was alone drinking by myself, that's where the
Mhm.
demons really come out. So sometimes
Yeah.
my social drinking, I wouldn't necessarily feel that, but insecurities come out, like hating on myself comes out, like dark, going to a dark place, kind of comes out. And that's where I knew that was like, this is not how God wants me to feel. Like, this is not
Mhm.
how God wants me to see myself. And
Yeah.
I think when your inhibitions are lowered because you've created a substance where you're escaping, I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know, it's not healthy. I mean, it's not to say, I mean, who knows when Jesus turned water into wine, like what kind of wine that was or how great it
Right.
was. But like, we know the Jewish culture has, a
Yeah.
consumption of alcohol, but honestly, to bring it all down, like it was just kind of like your brain goes into a dark place, and it's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think, and at the end of the day, alcohol is a depressant, right? And so, I mean, I can relate to what you shared too. I know for me, like the longer, and obviously my story is a little different because I got to a really like deep rock bottom where if I didn't stop drinking, I probably would have been like an everyday drinker, full blown alcoholic. But, lost my train of thought here. Oh, so when I got to a point where, I mean, alcohol was hindering my mental health for a while, like, like you said, like started getting really depressed. I had really heightened anxiety. And I mean, I got to a point where I was even just having suicidal thoughts. So it got really crazy and not good. And of course, at that time, I was in a toxic relationship and all that good stuff, all that cool stuff. Um,
Combo. Mhm.
yeah, but it's like, just like you, like once I actually allowed myself to just even just take a break, it's like I could actually hear God. I actually felt more free. And the closer that I grew to God and in my relationship with God, I was just like, this is not like what he has for me, right? His inheritance that he gives us, it's freedom. And this just feels like bondage. And so I loved that you shared that because I think a lot of people do struggle with that. And I think sometimes even people don't realize how much alcohol is actually tied to what they may be experiencing in their mental health. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
yeah.
mean, it's just I mean, they call it, I think you can call it alcohol like a truth serum in some ways because
Mhm.
things come out, people say things, people, and that's
Yeah.
just some inner demons that you are
Mhm.
fighting through. And
Yeah.
definitely with my, acne in the past, like it was, I mean, I went to school with open sores on my face. Like it was one of those
Yeah.
things where like I've experienced suicidal thoughts, I've experienced depression.
Mhm.
So I'm already susceptible to that. And
Yeah.
alcohol can bring that out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Well,
It
it has
is.
been such a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
I would love for you to share like how people can reach you and also how you do help people. Is it just more one-on-one or do you have group coaching? What does that look like?
Yes, we are actually in the process of building a community, but we do have one-on-one coaching. We've got a 12-week program that we run people through. We have a monthly subscription that we have as well. And then we are building a meal prep Sunday community that we're also kind of working towards. So
Awesome.
as I mentioned, like being an entrepreneur, you're trying to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, how do I serve people? What do I take care of people?
Mhm.
So we do have a free 7-day event coming up. It's starting next week. If people are interested in joining, going to get exposure to our app and you get to see what we're all about and learning everything. And at the end of it, we do a nutrition and fitness audit. So if people are
Oh,
interested in
cool.
that, that is a great way for us to like, for you guys to get to know us and see what we do.
Mhm.
And nothing is being pitched or sold to you during that time frame. So if you wanted to just come enjoy and learn and see maybe how we can help support you in your fitness journey, I would love for you guys to join us if you're interested.
Yeah, awesome. And do you have a link for them already to join that or?
Yeah, we do a pre-call to kind of get to know
Okay.
you just a little bit. So I'd be happy to provide a link if people are interested in scheduling something. It's always good
Okay.
for me to be like, hey, let's make sure we're a good fit or this is a good thing
Yeah.
for you. And on that pre-call, we get you into the app and get you signed
Mhm.
up and everything, and then schedule that follow-up
Okay.
check-in too. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, then if you want to drop that link in the Facebook group, like under the comments and just put what
perfect.
that's for, just so people can kind of, check that out. I think that'd be great.
Awesome. I'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure. And I think this is just going to be so life-giving for so many people. And I think just hearing your story on every aspect, I've enjoyed hearing it and
Thank
everything that
you.
you've talked about today. So thank you so much, Amy.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. It
Yeah,
was an honor to be
of
interviewed. I
course.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me figure out how to stop this thing.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. There we go. Okay. So it stopped streaming. Okay. I've never like you, I had never um stopped like the streaming.
The streaming, I know, right?
So
That's why we're like, okay,
yeah,
hold on for a second, right?
I know. I don't even know if it's still recording.
It is still recording.
It is still
Yes. So
recording.
you still, that's the cool thing is they are
Oh, here
separate.
we go.
Mhm.
Okay. Stop.
Yeah.